France. Okay. Now, with this, moving forward, we're going to come back across the pond, and it's time for another election. Okay, so Roosevelt was originally elected in 32, re-elected in 36. Okay, and he's going to do something that's never been done before. He's going to run for a third term, and he's going to win. Okay. With that, and this is another landslide. The Republicans have no chance again. Okay, they're going to choose Wendell Willkie. Okay, oppose the New Deal like Alf Landon. Remember, he was the governor of Kansas that ran in 1936. Okay, and lost. Willkie will only win, I think it's 8 states. He'll win North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Maine, and Vermont. I think that's it. Okay, Roosevelt will win the rest. But what they did agree on, the two parties, and this is important, the fact that, there's a chance we're going to go to war, right? Right? There's a chance. So we might as well prepare. We're already building airplanes. We talked about that, building a Navy. So just in case, we need to institute the draft, which is called conscription. Okay. The true term is to be conscripted, is to be drafted. Okay. So we start drafting men between ages 18 and 35. All right. Sorry, ladies, you don't get to get drafted yet. Okay. There are people in Washington right now that want women to be eligible for the draft. Okay. We'll see if that actually happens. Now, hopefully we'll, well, not right now. Hopefully we'll never have one again. Last time we had a draft was Vietnam.
Don't we have like millions of troops and numbers and stuff?
Right now we have about 1 million troops. Which is a relatively small standing army. Now that includes the reserves. Okay, so if you're in the reserves, you can get called up, right, during a war. Yes? Okay. So actually, if there was another major war, the people that have served previously, they may get called back up too. And then you might see a draft. Okay, like say if we got in a major war with China, something like that, you could possibly see a draft again. But they realized drafting guys in their 30s, pretty quickly they realized this isn't a good idea. Why? They have families, many of them are important members of the community, own businesses and stuff like that. What else? They're old.
Athletic.
They're out of shape. Yeah, right? You want soldiers to be in shape, be in good shape, okay? And when you get old, I can tell you, yes, you start to have ailments and so forth. So they quickly retreated on the 30-somethings. And really what you see, like in Vietnam, is it's your 18-year-olds, it's your 19-year-olds, okay? They're the ones that are going to get drafted, okay? But they'll cap that at 900,000, all right? And we didn't even have guns to give all these 900,000. So we're going to have to start building more weapons, uniforms, all the stuff required by a large army. Okay, now this is 1940. We're not going to get into close to 1942. So this is just in case. And it's good, guys, that both parties agreed that we needed to, hey, just in case, let's get ready, okay? So that was good. Now, like we talked about, well, the video just talked about, Britain is in trouble. Right, and so they've got their backs to the wall. We just talked about this. And so Roosevelt knows they need help. He tries every legal device to help our allies with supplies. So one of the first things they did start doing, because our neutrality acts would not allow us to sell munitions. They'd let us sell weapons, but not the bullets and the bombs that go with it. So what Roosevelt would do was sell this to private companies, and private companies would sell them to the British. That way, the U.S. government is still neutral, okay? Now, one of the problems with the supplies, we have this cash and carry thing where the British could bring their ships over, fill them up with supplies, and take their ships back. The problem was so many of these ships are being sunk in the Atlantic. I don't know if I've shared this number with you guys. During World War II, more than 4,600 ships will be sunk in the Atlantic. Unterboten. Unterboten. Underwater boats, U-boats, submarines. So German submarines, you can see three different classes of Kriegsmarine U-boats, or Unterboten is what you say in German, okay, that will be sinking ships, okay? So the supplies that are being sent by the British, taken by the British, are being sunk. So Churchill asked for the U.S. Navy to use destroyers to escort British ships across the Atlantic. And Roosevelt's like, no, man, I can't do that. Because our ships are going to come under attack and we're going to be drawn into a war. Sorry, can't help you. But what he did do, we had some old World War I destroyers that we weren't going to use again. And he said, okay, we'll let you have these 50 World War I destroyers. And Churchill said, okay, well, in exchange, we'll let you use some of our air and naval bases around the world. Because the British Empire is large, okay? And so we're going to make a trade. Now, remember, Churchill had to destroy part of the French fleet so it didn't fall into the German hands. Churchill promises that if Britain is defeated, they will destroy these ships so they can't be used against us. Does that make sense? Now, guys, a few years ago, I was kind of, trying to learn a little bit more about this, and I found this really good website. So these are the naval and air stations that we got 99-year leases to use. Antigua, British Guiana, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Bermuda, Newfoundland. So this is, huh? Yeah, we still are allowed to use these for 99 years from 1940.
So what happens after the 99 years?
Well, they'll either let us keep using them or they'll tell us you need to leave. Okay. Now, this is what the ships look like. These are the World War I destroyers. And the cool thing about this website, guys, is it lists all the ships and the fate of the ships during the war, what happened to them. Now, a lot of them, actually, most of them survived the war, like these here, and were broken up, used as scrap metal at the end of the war. Some of them were shared with the Russians, given to the Soviets, okay, because pretty soon, guys, Hitler's going to invade Russia. And Russia is going to become our friend. They're going to become our ally. Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay? And in the eyes of the United States and Britain, Hitler was worse than the communists. Okay? Now, this one right here, the Buchanan, was renamed the Campbellton Town. And they loaded it with explosives and drove it into the dry dock at Normandy in France. And so you basically fill the ship up with explosives, get it going into the direction you want it to, jump off the ship, it goes into the dock and blows up, making it useless that the Germans could no longer use it. Okay? Now, if you look further down at this list, you can see, like this one here was sunk by U-boat 286. This one was sunk by U-boat 204. Okay?
Why did they not use all these destroyers?
What do you mean?
Why couldn't they use them for World War II?
Well, we were building new ships. Okay? So the British just needed escorts. This one was sunk by U-101, U-574. Okay? U-882 down here. Others struck mines and stuff like that. Okay? So it's just kind of an interesting website that describes what happened to all these 50 ships. So it's basically a trade, 50 ships for the use of 8 bases. Okay? Now, some Americans didn't want us to do this. They said this is going to involve us in the war, especially that America's First group. They were opposed to it. But Roosevelt realizes that the British need help. Okay? Now, this was mentioned in the little video I showed you, the Lend-Lease Act. Okay, Jerry Seinfeld mentioned this, okay? So this is really what you see in a lot of the history books. And by the way, an arsenal of democracy, you guys get what that means? An arsenal is a big cache of weapons, okay, so that you can win the war, all right? So the U.S. would lend or lease supplies to Britain for later payment. Now, you guys remember this? In World War I, we loaned the Allies like $9 billion worth of stuff. Did we get paid? Remember war debts? Did we get paid back? Finland paid us back. That was the only one. All those other debts were forgiven. We forgave those loans. Okay. Now we are expecting to be paid back again. But what's important also here, guys, is, as I said, the Soviet Union will also fall under this lend-lease, as will China. China is our ally during World War II. Okay, so all of them will benefit from the Lend-Lease Act. Okay, and before long, American ships, American cargo ships, merchant ships, are going to be delivering supplies, which means German U-boats are going to be attacking our ships, which means Americans are going to start dying. But guys, the easiest way, the most efficient way to move ships across the Atlantic were with convoys. You see all these ships right here? This isn't the west coast of the United States where all those cargo ships can't get into the docks. You guys heard about that? Okay. This is a convoy, but that's what it looks like off the coast of Long Beach right now. Bunch of ships that can't get into the docks and get unloaded. Okay. Now you put your most precious cargo in the middle of the convoy. And then you have destroyers and cruisers circling around as this convoy moves across. And, you know, most of these ships will make it across. Some of them will get picked off by German U-boats. U-boats tended to travel in packs. They call them wolf packs. All right. When we get to the next section after this test, I'll be talking more about the war, the Battle of the Atlantic, and how we fought the submarines. Okay. Now, this meeting, Churchill is going to brave the Atlantic. He's going to take a ship over to Canada. And Roosevelt is going to meet him up here in Newfoundland. So Churchill's going to come up here, avoid the U-boats, and meet Roosevelt here. Now, guys, nobody knows about this. The American people were not told about this. The British were not told about this. This is a secret meeting between Roosevelt and Churchill. It's called the Atlantic Charter. Okay, this is in mid-1941. What they are discussing is what we're going to do once the United States gets in the war. Because Roosevelt knows eventually we're going to get in. And it is decided here that once we get in, we will deal with Europe first and the Pacific second. Okay, which is kind of going to be, might be a tough sell because who attacks us on December 7th, 1941? The Japanese. Now, we don't declare war on Germany. After we declare war on Japan, 3 days later, Germany and Italy will declare war on us, which makes it a little easier to go to war in Europe since they declared war on us, okay? But this is the decision that is made so they can start preparing for once we get in this war, how we're going to execute it, okay? So that planning is already beginning before we go into war, again, which is smart. Do you think, I certainly hope that U.S. generals, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, military colleges right now are studying, if we get into a conflict with China, how we will conduct that war? You know what I mean? You think they've already planned this out some? Okay, now that new hypersonic weapon that the Chinese have used, have you guys heard about this?
Missile that can like dodge things?
It circles the Earth like 5 times the speed of sound. Hypersonic. Did you know?
Wait, why did the Chinese have all this cool tech? Why don't we?
Well, exactly. Now, what the Chinese like to do is steal that technology. Okay, with spies. Okay, you know there's spies in the United States right now, right? You know that? You know the Chinese pay for students to come to our universities. Yeah. I just shared an article with Daryl, because we talk about stuff, but two Chinese students that graduated from Harvard, okay, right now are in China. They're now members of the Communist Party, and they are helping to run the camps where they're imprisoning the Uyghurs. You guys know about the slavery that's going on in the ethnic cleansing in China right now? Okay, the Uyghurs are Chinese Muslims, okay? And they're basically, the Chinese are rounding them up and putting them in camps. And from what stories we're hearing is that they're sterilizing them so they cannot reproduce. Sound familiar? Okay, like eugenics, okay? So basically, the United States is looking the other way. And when it comes to this, what the Chinese are doing. Okay, this is modern day slavery, okay? And some American companies that are doing business in China may be benefiting from slave labor right now as we speak. Now, any NBA fans in here? Like the NBA? There's this guy from Turkey that came out. I don't know if you remember, LeBron James got in some trouble because the Chinese are doing this. The NBA is big business in China. Okay, so our businesses, our government, kind of looking the other way. It's all about the dollars. Okay, but this guy that's from Turkey came out and criticized the Chinese for what they're doing. Okay, and the NBA, he plays for the Celtics, and the Chinese government turned off the game. And so,
yeah, that was last year.
Well, that happened, but this happened this week. Yeah, this Turkish guy. So he's standing up for human rights. Okay, now the NBA is probably pissed because it's going to cost them money in China. Okay, that's something we used to do in this country. Stand up for human rights,
What changed?
Money, lack of morals. Okay, moving on. All right, now this is kind of hard to see, guys, but remember I said there were 4,600 ships sunk in the Atlantic? And here's another thing. In World War I, 5,000 ships were sunk in the Atlantic. There's a whole bunch of litter down there at the bottom of the Atlantic, okay? Which is now probably, where the fish like to congregate, where shipwrecks are and stuff. You know what I mean? But all these dots on there, you may not be able to see it, signify shipping losses or U-boat losses. Okay, and that's just from June 43 to May of 45. Okay, so what Roosevelt does is he extends the zone necessary to the defense of the United States further out. Now, guys, if you're going, hey, we got a fishery. People like to fish. All right, are you good at it? What kind of fishing do you like to do? Catfish, bass fishing, what?
My dad's a professor.
Oh, okay. So that's awesome. So where do the bass like to hang at? Okay.
They like to hang, usually not in the middle. It's
By the reeds and stuff, kind of. Yeah. No, like,
shade.
yeah. So if you're gonna go fishing, you want to go where the fish are, right? If you're a submarine, you're gonna want to go where the ships are. So they're gonna hang out, guys. Look at all these dots along our Atlantic coast. They're going to be U-boats right off the coast of the United States sinking our ships. Okay? You can see a bunch of U-boats get sunk in here and along the English Channel as well. Okay? Then the United States does something really smart. We're going to occupy bases and ports in Iceland and Greenland. Okay? Because if Germany ever decides to attack the United States, that Greenland here, Iceland here, they can use these as refueling stations or as landing strips for aircraft and so forth to hop across the Atlantic and attack the United States. Okay? And so we're going to occupy those before they do. Smart? Yeah, hell yeah, it's smart. Okay? Congress authorizes the seizure of 92 German and Italian ships in the United States. Now, guys, you think of German companies at the time like Volkswagen. Yes, you heard of Volkswagen? Yes. Now, if they were doing business in the United States and they had Volkswagen cars on their ships, we froze them. We said, you're not leaving with those, or you're not, they're staying right here. And then we froze all German and Italian assets in June, which means all the bank accounts from all the businesses from Germany and Italy are frozen. They're not going to be able to take that money out and use it against us. Because we did this after 9/11. There were a bunch of Islamic charities in the United States that were raising money here and shipping it over to people that had links to terrorism. We froze all those accounts. In 1979, when Iran took the American hostages, I talked to you guys about that. We froze all Iranian assets in this country. Obama gave them back in 2014. Billions of dollars. Pallets of cash. Now that pissed a lot of people off, like me, because Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. So groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, these groups that attack our friends, they're funded by the Iranian government. And Obama just gave them that money back. So it's being used to kill our friends. We're not going to let that happen here. Okay? So these acts right here could actually be seen as an act of war by the United States by doing this. Okay? But it's, again, the smart thing to do. Now, here we go. This is the thing that's going to change everything, guys. This is what Hitler said he was always going to do, which was invade the Soviet Union for living space, Lebensraum, for the German people, so that they would have living space. Okay? This is called Operation Barbarossa. Now, if you're Hitler, you got all kinds of confidence that you can conquer Russia. Look what he did to Europe in a matter of weeks. 9 weeks, he took over 6 countries in Europe, right? So Blitzkrieg can conquer anything. All battlefields are the same. Now, Britain might have put a little bit of damper on his confidence after he was unable to defeat the British in the air. But he's going to turn his attention here. Now, you got to look at the date. June 22nd. Time to get out of here. 2:30. Okay, I'm not going to be able to get into this too deep, guys, but let me get started, okay? And this stuff's really interesting, by the way. Okay? Russian history period is interesting, okay? But what's the capital of Russia? Moscow. Okay, it's right here, guys. Okay? Now, I want you to follow my finger here. Okay, this is how far north Moscow is on the globe. Okay, so it's June. What's the weather like here? It's pretty nice, right? It could be chilly some days, but July, August, June, July, it's nice up here, okay? You get into September. You start getting some cold fronts coming through here.
Yeah.
Maybe some snow. Yeah. October. Yeah. November.
Yeah.
It's freaking cold, man. Okay. There's a lot of snow. It's cold. December.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal. Okay. Now, you guys, you're right, like Kansas, but we're way down here. We're down here. They're up here. Okay. Now, we live in the jet stream 365 days out of the year, right? About 355 of those days in Kansas, the wind is either blowing out of the north or the south. Rarely do we ever get wind out of the east or the west. Maybe about 10 days a year. Okay? I pay attention to these things on the baseball coverage. Okay? And Maddox likes it when the wind is blowing out of the south. Okay? Because then the ball carries that way over the fence, left field. Okay? I'm a left-handed hitter. I like the ball, the wind blowing west, which it only does like 20. So, now, guys, we live in the jet stream right here, okay? You guys ever heard of Buffalo, New York? Buffalo, New York, right?
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills. They get so much freaking snow every year. Buffalo, guys, sits right here, okay? You got three Great Lakes right here. You get lake effect snow, so the moisture, oh yeah, they get like 25 inches here, 20 inches here, 20 feet. I mean, it's crazy how much snow they get. Well, guys, Moscow has the Norwegian Sea effect. They are in this jet stream here. So the weather in Russia, guys, is bad. So when the Germans leave Poland, because remember, they control this half of Poland. So they got to come all the way out of here to Moscow. Okay? Now the Russians are going to fight, but they're not prepared for this. They're not prepared for blitzkrieg just like the other countries were. So as the Russians retreat, they're going to use what's called the scorched earth practice, where they will destroy anything the Germans use as they come through. So they will destroy all the shelters, like houses, buildings. They're going to tear it all down, blow it up. They're going to kill all the food and poison water, drinking water sources. So as the Germans come across here, guys, it's scorched earth. And so they're going to have to resupply from Poland, okay? Which makes it really hard. So they leave in summer uniforms. Well, shoot, 2 months later, 3 months later, it's getting freaking cold, and the Russians have destroyed everything. Now, here's the sad part. Most of the Russian population lives in here. So as they scorch the earth, those civilians will be starving to death. They will be freezing to death. Literally, Russian people are digging holes in the ground for shelter. It's horrible, guys. We are talking about tens of millions of people dying. Not just soldiers. In fact, it's most of civilians here. There's going to be heavy fighting. The Germans will get within 15 miles of Moscow as the real winter sets in. They're going to have to stop and wait for warmer weather. Stalin put most of his manufacturing back here, out of the reach of the German Luftwaffe, so his tanks, his planes could be built out here, and then they will counterattack over time. This is about a 2-year process, 2.5-year process, okay? But guys, really, it's the Russian winter that will defeat the Germans early on, not the Russian army, okay? It is so cold that the German tank treads will literally freeze to the ground. They will not be able. You know, an engine seizes up when it gets a certain temperature. Like if you live in Minnesota, your car has a plug-in that will be warm at night. You guys know that? Yeah, it's pretty cool. But guys, the tanks, the trucks, they will freeze up. They will not be able to use them. It was so cold that, like, if you got shot, we're talking in the winter here. As soon as the blood started to hit the air, it started to freeze. I mean, it was freaking cold. People froze to death. A lot of soldiers froze to death. Okay? So I'm going to get into this, guys, on Monday. I'll get into and I want to talk about Stalingrad. Okay? Stalingrad is one of the most important battles of the war. And I'm going to show you a video clip, too, that's pretty cool from them. All right? All right, well, you guys have a great weekend.
I think I know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.